Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is June 11th, 2025. There's a lot going on. With each passing week, we seem to be in a little bit better place. And so I want to go ahead and get into all of this. But before I do, I want to apologize to those of you that have not as yet heard from me over the last maybe 7 to 10 days. We've been literally swamped with calls, requests for our initial trust package, questions about applying, questions about implementation and all of that. I'm literally on the phone nonstop. I'm doing the best that I can. And right after this call, to the extent I have any voice left, I will be returning calls, emails, and texts that I have received. I hope to catch up with everyone by the end of today, so that we can proceed and make sure that everyone that's requested a trust initial trust email receives it, and those that have applied for the trust will have it well on its way to delivery to them. So let's go ahead and get started for today. I want to begin with a statement. This is my own opinion, but I do not see how Iraq can proceed economically or monetarily at 1310. What's been put in place at this point is beyond the point of no return. 1310 is an impossibility for Iraq. In fact, in my opinion, Iraq would be a failed nation state if their currency is not reinstituted, and I mean quickly. The failure to reinstitute will threaten the very security and stability that they've been working toward for a couple of decades. Continued postponement of the budget has implications economically that they just cannot deal with. Failure to reinstitute their currency is going to nullify many of the contracts that they've established to rebuild their infrastructure, as well as the currency swaps they've made with other nations and the memorandum of understanding that must exist in order for those nations to involve themselves in legitimate currency swaps. Now we're told that Iraq has between 16 and 17 trillion in reserves, and that these reserves help to establish an underpinning for the true value of the Iraqi dinar. But I look at that money as collateral, and without the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar, the only way they can honor their infrastructure contracts and currency swaps would be to turn around and spend down those reserves. So that's not going to work. The only solution, once again, is the reinstitution of their currency. Now, when Iraq went into a program rate, their country was basically in shambles. Since that time, we have globally proceeded through Basel compliance. We're now at Basel IV compliance. Basel is basically, rather than a currency being a fiat currency based on the projections of a given central bank of a given nation, the currency is based on the known natural resources of that country and the ability to bring those resources to market. And as I've said in the past, in my opinion, Iraq per square mile may be the richest country in the world. So this supports the fact that the Iraqi dinar simply cannot remain at 1310, a program rate established to punish Iraq for its invasion of Kuwait. That was long ago. It was a different country with different leadership, different economic system, different global currency arrangements. So everything needs to change, and everything in Iraq is screaming for the reinstitution of their currency. Iraq itself, through the CBI, has initiated something called the Azraflak campaign to educate its citizens, to give them, I guess I'd call it, economic literacy. Well, that makes no sense. The nation's going to remain status quo at 1310. The reason for this campaign was to educate the citizens because they're going to have real purchasing power, and they're going to have arguably one of the strongest currencies against the USD in the world. And we're on the threshold of all of this. Now, as usual, as we say with Iraq, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. There are still some issues that need to be dealt with. There are still some banking reforms that need to be taken care of. Remember, we still have some bad players in Iraq, and they're not just Iraqis. They're also Iranian nationals as well. So it's a little bit of a complicated situation. But there are banking reforms that need to be done. Citizens, understandably, are still hoarding the 3-0 provisional currency. Now, the 3-0 provisional currency in country isn't really a problem. The problem is individuals that are going to try to sneak that currency out of the country in order to take advantage of the 3-0 provisional currency when it comes to the exchange. Now, there are individuals who say that the deletion of the 3 zeros will affect dinar globally, so that those of us, for example, that invested in the Iraqi dinar, say you purchased a million Iraqi dinar, removal of the 3 zeros or deletion of the 3 zeros means you've got, 1,000 dinar. So you're going to go to the bank and exchange a million note, and you're only going to exchange it at the rate of 1,000 dinar. Yes, I guess that's possible, but it makes no sense at all. The deletion of the zeros has to do with hyperinflation inside the nation state of Iraq. It makes no sense for a global deletion of the 3 zeros because central banks globally have purchased heavily in Iraq. International hedge funds have purchased heavily in the Iraqi dinar, the provisional currency. Whale investors have done so, and of course, individual citizens of a number of countries. But when we go to the bank to exchange that currency, we're not going to the CBI of Iraq. We're going to our own central bank. We'll exchange it for its value against our own currency. And then our central bank will go to Iraq and negotiate whatever they can to retire that currency. Now, the reason I say the deletion of the 3 zeros does not affect us is because these central banks, these international hedge funds, these whale investors, and individuals such as ourselves invested in the provisional 3-0 currency to assist Iraq and to help Iraq resurrect itself. Having done so, it makes no sense to then pull the rug out from under us and say, well, the 3 zeros are gone, so you basically got next to nothing. I don't see that as a possibility. I really don't. I guess anything's possible, but it makes no sense. And remember, it's our CBI in the United States that will give us USD, not Iraq, that in any way is dealing directly with us. And the other issue, of course, that I'll get into a little later, is the President of the United States. I don't think Donald Trump is going to allow Iraq to short sheet us this way. So I just wanted to touch on that one issue. Another thing going on in Iraq is the transition to a digital electronic system, which again is part of the ASREFLAC education for the citizens and the establishment of the new bank accounts. So an Iraqi citizen will go to the bank with a 3-0 provisional currency. They will get the new currency, the new notes, and, of course, the deletion of the 3 zeros. But, again, that should not affect us. Lastly, I just mentioned it, but I'll mention it again. We have a real friend assisting those of us that have dinar and, frankly, the dong and some of the other currencies, and that's the current President of the United States, Donald Trump. He's been working he's using an instrument, his tariff program. He's doing a couple of things with that. Countries like China that have artificially devalued their currency to corner the trade market are not going to be able to get away with that much longer. And countries dealing with the United States that have currencies and program rates like Iraq are not going to short sheet us by with the deletion of the zeros globally, in my opinion. So those of us that have dinar, dong, and some of these other currencies, I think are going to be very happy with the end result. This has been a long slog. It's taken a long time. We still have a little bit of a ways to go, but I think in the not-too-distant future, we're going to be in the banks negotiating the exchange of the dinar. And in my opinion, I think the Vietnamese dong will not be far behind, and there are a few other currencies that might be involved as well. But we're seeing a shift here in what's going on, and part of it is the death of the Western fiat currency system, the debt approach to things that have been going on almost for a century in the West, and we're going to go back to real value, not fiat currencies, but commodity-backed currencies. That's what Basel compliance is all about. Currencies actually being based on the known natural resources of a given country and the ability to bring those resources to market, not some arbitrary valuation from a CBI. So that's the information that I did want to provide to you for today. Now, those of us that have dinar and other currencies are in a very unusual situation because we literally are in a situation where we could become overnight millionaires, something that people say could never happen. We've discussed in the past how such a thing could happen, how it's not happened in the past, and it most likely will never happen again. But again, those of us that stumbled across the dinar literally will become overnight millionaires. But you have one other advantage, and that is knowing that you will be the recipient of this windfall gives you an opportunity to protect that wealth for yourself and your family. That's through the establishment of the trust package that Trusts Unlimited had established and marketed specifically to dinarians. When you're in a situation of possessing an asset, whatever it is, that you know is going to increase substantially in value, it would behoove you to take it out of personal title and place it in a protected trust package. So let's say you are an individual. Let's say you had 10 million dinar. You purchased for $10,000. You stumbled across our call. You got our initial package. You read what it had to say. It seemed to make sense. So you applied to establish your family asset protection trust package. What benefits do you receive for doing that? Well, the first benefit is privacy and anonymity. You're the beneficiary of the trust, but you are not the owner of the assets. The trusts are. So no one knows that you possess this wealth. Second, because the assets are in trust, you will avoid any personal IRS scrutiny. You are the beneficiary of the assets within the trust, but you're not the owner of the assets. The trust is. Now, why does that protect you from the IRS? The IRS tends to avoid complicated situations. When they stumble across a sophisticated trust package such as ours, they rightfully assume you must also have sophisticated legal counsel. Okay? They're just going to move along. They're looking for the low-hanging fruit. They're not looking for years of litigation. So you're not going to have an issue there. The third issue is pre-RV gifting. You can gift currencies to family and friends, pre-RV currencies, and avoid a federal gift tax. But if you've established our trust, you not only can gift pre-RV currencies to family and friends and avoid a federal gift tax, you will also have control of the post-RV proceeds. Now, we've had a number of people over the years say, I'd love to give currencies to family and friends. I don't really want to manage the money for them directly, but I'm afraid to give them the money for any number of reasons. I don't think they can handle it. Well, if you gift them the currency through the trust, once again, you will avoid the federal gift tax, but you will also have control of the post-RV proceeds. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because it's structured in such a way as to allow you to avoid the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. By avoiding probate, not only will your heirs have immediate access to their respective inheritance, but it will not be a matter of public display. No one will know the size of your estate, who your heirs were, and how much they each stand to inherit. You will also avoid the federal estate tax. The federal estate tax can be as much as 55% of your estate in excess of $12.2 million. So this means that your heirs will immediately and privately receive their respective share of your estate, 100 cents on a dollar. No public exposure, no federal estate tax. Now, there are some asset protection benefits that are only available through the trust. They're not available through LLCs, sub-S corporations, limited family partnerships, retirement plans, nothing like that. Only an asset protection trust package will provide these benefits. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to avoid something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. Now, what does that mean? It means, as an example, you purchase 10 million dinar for $10,000. You transfer the currencies to the trust. They subsequently revalue, and let's say for $1, they subsequently revalue for $10 million. You now have $10 million in that trust. Can you be personally sued for $10 million? No. Why? Because the property, the currencies were only worth $10,000 when you transferred them out of title. So by transferring a pre-RV currency to a trust, you are capping any potential civil loss to the value of the currency at the time of the transfer. Now, if that were not true and you had $10 million in trust and they could sue you for $10 million, would they? Probably. But if they knew that they could only sue you for $10,000, would they? No. It's not worth the time and the aggravation and the money to roll the dice when profit would only be $10,000. Now, post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as liability stop loss, limited liability stop loss. What do I mean by that? This is why we've established a package of trusts. So you purchase 10 million dinar for $10,000. You transfer the currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $10 million. That $10 million is sitting in a bank account established for the master trust that you established pre-RV. But this is a package of trusts, meaning you can create sub-trusts. So now that you have $10 million in your trust bank account, you decide to make some purchases, homes, cars, boats, etc. But you place each item in its own separate sub-trust. This is a legal strategy referred to as segregation of assets. What this means is that if, hypothetically, someone were to slip and fall and break their back in your home or in one of your rental properties and they wanted to sue you, the suit would be limited to that one asset, that one home where they slipped and fell, because all of your other assets are in separate trusts, which under the law are separate legal entities having nothing whatsoever to do with the litigation in question. So you're protected by transferring the pre-RV currencies to the trust and capping any potential loss to the pre-RV value. Post-RV, you're protected by segregating assets, homes, cars, boats, into separate trusts or entities, limiting any potential civil suit. This allows you to protect and preserve your estate for yourself and generationally for children and grandchildren. Again, there's no other asset that can do this. Period. Full stop. Only a package of irrevocable trusts will allow you this type of protection. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts, one optional gift sub-trust if you wish to give currencies to family and friends and control the post-RV proceeds, and then 8 additional and initial sub-trusts to hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've used for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But when we decided to market this trust to dinarians, that we knew that price tag would be unaffordable, and We were initially only going to assign currencies to the trust package, so we reduced the cost to $3,000. In addition, if you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500. We do have a deferred payment arrangement, but again, that trust package would cost you $3,000, but by paying us up front, you save an additional $500, and the total cost of the trust package would be $2,500. Again, it'd be very easy for us to sell this trust package anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000, but by mass marketing it to denarians, and we've been doing this for over a decade now, we've been able to reduce the cost to $2,500. Once the dinar hits the Forex, then the heavy lifting begins. You're going to be making decisions about what you're going to keep, what you're going to give away, and what you're going to want to purchase. And that's when we start funding all of your sub-trusts. The important issue is this: because the currencies are assigned to the trust, no one knows you possess this wealth. You transferred the pre-RV currencies to the trust. They're owned by the trust. You go to the bank, you do the exchange, and the USD goes into the trust bank account. And from there, you make whatever expenditures you want to purchase additional assets. They each go into a sub-trust. Your existing estate, you'll make a decision. Do you want to incorporate that in the sub-trusts of this new trust? Do you want to sell or give those things away? You can do whatever you want. But again, the most important issue is this is the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything. And what's the point of purchasing the dinar, sitting on it for over a decade, only to have it known to the entire world and anyone that feels that they have a grievance against you and wants to sue you? By simply placing it in trust, all of that goes away. You have your privacy, you have your anonymity, you have your asset protection, and you will, by the way, have certain tax benefits as well. There are other spin-off trusts that can be established based on what you're trying to accomplish philanthropically as well, but those are all post-RV discussions. This is basically what I wanted to share with you today. If the things that we've discussed are of interest, I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed, but you're under no obligation to do so. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. If you decide to proceed, again, everything you need is in the package. You'll send us your application, your fee. Your application will immediately go to our paralegals for preparation and delivery to you. Now, our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. And our phone service is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. Contact us by email or phone. We'll be happy to get our initial package out to you right away. Now, I am going to go to a Q&A here. I wasn't planning on it, but I feel like some people have some questions. We're at a point with this thing that many people are contacting us that are serious about setting up a trust. They've contacted us in the past. They've gotten some information, and they call back and say, hey, Jim, I'm ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A. If the thing will cooperate. Again, if you're interested in getting our initial no-obligation trust package, you can contact us by email or phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. And our phone service is 307-274-4122. We have a couple people in the queue here. Our first caller is area code 347. That's 347. Go ahead.
Yeah, do you have any commentary on the LA riots?
Well, the LA riots are part and parcel of national riots that are going on in probably 15 or 20 cities by this point. It's just a yin and yang going on between the left and the right in this country. It's unfortunate, but unlike the summer of 2020, I don't think this thing's going to last much longer. I don't think it's going to have any teeth. I think people are going to jail. I think there's going to be serious fines. And, I just don't think it's going to be an issue. Certainly, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all with regard to those of us that have dinar and other currencies and are expecting a reinstitution of these currencies. I don't think it'll have any effect whatsoever.
Okay, another thing, do you think Iraq is gaslighting everybody into believing that they're going to change the rate and they're trying to drag it on as long as possible, or do you think they're seriously going to do this?
I think there are certain players in Iraq that don't want to see it happen ever and are doing everything they can, if they can't stop it, to just drag it out. But as I mentioned in the call, I think the person occupying the White House right now is not going to allow that to happen. They're not going to allow Iran to interfere. I don't think they're going to allow Iran to be a nuclear threat very much longer. I don't think they're going to allow countries to devalue their currencies to corner the trade market. I think a lot of things are changing, and this man has another 3 years in power. So I think everything's moving in the right direction for us right now.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. Our next caller is area code 978. That's 978. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. This is Leslie from Massachusetts calling, and
Hi.
I have a hi. So we're getting close now to the end of the quarter, and I know that you've mentioned on a number of occasions the tax implications. So, do you have any words of wisdom? If this happens on the very last day of June, there's going to be a whole lot of scrambling going on, and I think uncertainty as far as what's happening with the banks and how long it's going to take for them to turn that around. And do you have any thoughts on that for us?
Well, let's say hypothetically that happened. The last day of any given quarter, this thing hits. Now, remember, Section 988E2 of the Internal Revenue Code says if the profit that you would realize from an exchange exceeds $200, you must pay the tax. So they're not saying the taxable event is the point of exchange. They're saying the taxable event is the increase in value. That also suggests that this is not treated as cap gain, that it's ordinary income. So it's the worst of both worlds for us. However, I'm going to point to the White House. I don't think they're going to allow us to get killed because, let's say it popped on the last day of June. We got the earliest we could get to the bank was 5 or 6 days later, and the bank's saying, well, we have to put a 21-day hold on your money. There's no way that's going to fly. Now, we'll probably be getting some things out to help people after it hits the Forex. I mean, if I were in the bank exchanging, I'd say, let me tell you something. Taxes are due in 8 days. So I want it in writing right now that this money is available, and before then, or we're not doing business. I'll go to another bank. But I'm not going to pay 100% penalty on a 45% tax and get wiped out because you want to play with my money for a few days. That's not how it works. And we'll be trying to give people some direction, but yeah, the banks they don't care. They really don't. So we have to, I say kiddingly, you have to go full Jed Clampett with these people and just say, no, I have to pay taxes, and that money has to be there to pay the taxes, and I want it in writing. Because if they renege, then the IRS will have to deal with them, not us. But on the other hand, we're 3 weeks from now, we'll be in a new quarter, and ideally the best time to have it's the first month of a given quarter. That gives us time to go to the IRS and argue based on certain sections of the code. We have Publication 525 that refers to the gain as cap gain. I think it's 643A and B of the code suggests it's cap gain. So that would give us time to argue cap gain. But failing that, we'd have to pay the ordinary income tax and then file for a refund citing those sections of the code. And again, we'll make all of those sections of the code available once the Iraqi dinar hits the Forex. That's part of the post-RV operation, and we have our hands full right now with the pre-RV stuff. So we'll deal with the taxes and all of that the moment the dinar hits the Forex.
Right. Okay. And just one other quick question. Are you aware of anything specific at this point in time that's holding this up?
Well,
like
there are
Iran or...
Well, certainly Iran would want to hold it up. Iran still looks at Iraq as their, red-headed stepchild that they can, slap around. So they're not going to be happy that Iraq is going to be one of the richest nations in the world and be able to make sure that they can defend themselves from Iran. Iran, they're just bad players, although lately they have not been quite so bellicose. They're a little bit more soft in their tone. Like most bullies, the one thing a bully is afraid of is someone that they know can beat them up. And, Trump's just not playing with these people. He's given them every opportunity to play nice. And if they don't, he's just going to unleash hell. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that Iran has been secretly working on is the long-range ballistic missile. So what's Trump doing? He wants to build the Golden Dome here, take away stuff like that. So, I think he's doing a whole lot of things that we're not aware of that are to our benefit. He wants to see the Iraqi dinar, the Vietnamese dong. He wants to see all these currencies meet Basel compliance. And he wants to get rid of the fiat currencies altogether. He wants to eliminate the Keynesian debt-oriented philosophy, and he's doing everything he can to return the wealth to the United States. The Federal Reserve is, in my opinion, they're just ripping us off. They're printing money out of nothing and charging us interest on it. So what's Trump doing? He's taking away tax on tips. He's taking away tax on overtime. He wants to reduce the federal income tax. He wants to get rid of the federal. He wants to get rid of all of that and just go to sound money. The Iraq, Iraq is such a wealthy nation that the currency itself is going to be extremely valuable against the U.S. dollar. It might surpass the Kuwaiti dinar. It might be the richest currency against the U.S. dollar once this is all done. And so this is where we are.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I certainly appreciate all your knowledge and information.
Well, thanks very much. I appreciate your call. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Our next caller is area code 209. That's 209. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, Jim. Actually, it's afternoon for you. I just had a quick question in regards to Shabibi. Shabibi used to say that he thought January 1st or July 1st was the best time for Iraq to revalue. Can you give me a little insight as to why and if you think that is in play at this point?
Well, okay. Countries tend to operate on a calendar year or a fiscal year. The calendar year begins in January to December. Fiscal years usually start July 1st. So what he's saying is the best time is the first month of the first quarter for either the calendar or the fiscal year. Now, we want the revaluation to be in the first month of any quarter because that means taxes wouldn't be due until the 15th day of the first month of the following quarter, which gives us time to go to the bank, do our exchange, confirm whatever the tax is, and make sure we have sufficient liquidity to pay the tax. And Shabibi, of course, everything they're doing right now is basically what Shabibi tried to do 10 years ago. But unfortunately, we had some bad players. We had Iran that was involved. The Obama administration didn't want to see it happen. They still don't want to see it happen. It's unfortunate, but you can't stop what's happening now. This train's coming down the tracks, and it's unstoppable. So the only issue for us is the post-RV protocol, going to the bank, doing the exchange, paying the tax. If we can't confirm that it's cap gain, for example, as I said before, you have no choice. You have to pay the ordinary income tax and file for a refund. I think we'll get a refund I think it'll take some time. It's going to be frustrating, but it's better than not paying the ordinary income tax and getting slapped with a penalty. So this is where we find ourselves. Everything, once a dinar hits the Forex, from the timing, from everything's going on, we will know exactly how to proceed and what we can suggest, that our clients do. But until then, we'll just have to wait and see.
I agree. Thank you. Just one other quick question regarding banks. A lot of people have said that paymasters and people have dealt with Wells Fargo Bank as a foundational bank or a lead bank in this RV. I've heard from others it was Chase. Regardless, I've spoke to Wells Fargo representatives that are fairly high up, and they have the same response, that there is no such thing as a dinar exchange. They are not participating, and basically it's a scam. What is your take on that?
Well, I've had trouble with Wells Fargo going back to, I'm in my 70s. In my mid-20s, I was in a parking lot waiting for a Wells Fargo VP to come out of the bank because he and I were going at it because of what the lies he was telling our clients. I've never had a good experience with Wells Fargo. I don't believe anything they say, and it wouldn't put it past me to tell all of their employees that this is a scam because they don't want their employees to purchase currencies and then retire. They need their employees. So that's just my personal experience and my personal opinion. The only way I will walk into a Wells Fargo bank with any of my currencies is if literally it's the only bank I can go to. I will take less money from another bank. I do not like Wells Fargo. I do not like any of the people I've ever been forced to associate with Wells Fargo. Now, that's just me. That's just my experience. But for all the years I've been in business, I've had nothing but bad news from them. But again, that's just me.
Thank you. No problem. I appreciate your time.
Sure. Okay. Bye-bye now. Okay, our next caller is area code 443. That's 443. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. This is Gina from Maryland.
Yes. How are you?
Your old stomping ground.
That's right.
So I first wanted to share that I have made one purchase from Safe Dinar, and it went very well. And I have another purchase that is supposed to be delivered today. So it has been a very good experience. So if anybody wants to pursue that, I would suggest.
Yes, I've used them too.
Suggest
I've used them too, and I had a good experience with them myself. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep. So I was a little scared, a little hesitant on it, but it worked out just fine. My question is, if you have some currency that you basically kind of left out, let's say you didn't include it in your in the Schedule A for in the trust, like bringing everything into the trust. So essentially, you've left some separate. If you go to exchange that out, like personally outside of the trust, we then have the potential to trigger that tax consequence, right? Tax attention on us, and trigger like an audit, the personal audit, which you talk about, which then they can go back 6 years, depending on how much, right?
All you have to do is go to the assignment form. In the margin, you write in whatever other currencies that you did not include. You and your trustee initial that. That's all you need to do, and that currency is officially assigned to the trust. Or you can create a second assignment form and just go through the process, put those currencies, the ones you didn't include the first time, and execute that document. Right. That's all you need to do, and you're good to go.
Okay, I understood, but I'm just asking, if you were not to, if let's say you were for some intentional reason not to bring it in, and then you exchange it, and depending on where how much you exchange and what it does, because I mean anything over $10,000, right, triggers notification from a bank.
You will pay the tax whether it's in trust or not. The difference is it's going to be on the grid. It's not going to be protected in the trust. And if you transfer it to the trust, you still are on record as having owned the asset individually and transferred the post-RV proceed to the trust. So, like I said, the simplest thing for you to do, the simplest thing is to go to the assignment form and just write in the additional currency and initial. Do that and you're good to go.
Right. Well, I'm looking at, and on the assignment form, it just mine just reflects the currency type, right? Iraqi dinar, and then there'll be Vietnamese dong that'll be added. Then there's a schedule A, which actually is more of a more detailed breakdown of how much you have, and that schedule A is actually not.
If you've purchased more currencies that you've already, if you look at the assignment form, it says any and all currencies you purchased or that you should subsequently purchase. So let's say you had 5 million dinar and then you purchased more dinar. If they're dinar, they're included. It's an in-kind inclusive assignment. So any that you own or should subsequently purchase is assigned to the trust. Now, if it's a different currency that's not listed in there, again, just write it in the margin and initial it. That's all you need to do.
Right.
Don't worry about any other form.
Okay. And then essentially, so you have, in these documents, the trust documents, right, the assignment form and all that, these are the things that you have to show if the trust gets audited, to show the existence of the trust before the revaluation, and that the currencies that you had were assigned to the trust before the revaluation, right? Like, okay. Who, from a tax consequence perspective, your trust can be audited. Your trust can be audited, right? Just like an individual can be.
Let me stop you right there. First of all, your pre-RV trust cannot be audited because there's nothing in it to audit. You put no
Correct.
assets in it. You've merely assigned currencies. Once the currencies have been exchanged and the USD goes into the trust bank account, even if you were audited, the only thing you could show them is a recent statement from the bank account. There's nothing else to show them. But again, I keep going back to your issue. Anything that is not assigned to the trust in terms of currencies that you want assigned to the trust can be accomplished by simply writing it in on the assignment form. But all the other issues are extraneous issues. There is going to be no audit of the trust because there's nothing. I mean, if they came and said, let me audit your trust, you give them a blank sheet of paper, say there's nothing in the trust. Nothing right now. The only thing you've done is assign currencies to it.
Okay, understood. So yeah, and I have the ability to add as you've indicated. But then on the Schedule A, which that is not a notarized document, the Schedule A,
no.
and it lists. So we could do an update on that, just add it and reprint it out.
When the dinar hits the Forex, we're going to walk through the trust with everyone, and Schedule A is one of the things that we're going to need to discuss. As I said, the only thing you need to do pre-RV, before the dinar or these other currencies, any of the currencies hit the Forex, the only thing you need to do is execute all of the documents, which do two things. They put the trust legally in force, and they assign your currencies legally to the trust. The only outlier you have is a currency that has not been assigned to the trust, and again, that's simply accomplished by writing it into the assignment form and initialing it. But there's nothing else pre-RV for you to do.
All right.
Okay.
That's all I got. And other than whatever it is that you believe in, pray to it that this happens after July 1. Right?
Well, we want to avoid it happening in the third month of a given quarter because it It means
problematic.
And remember, everyone's running to the 10 or 15 million people that have dinar. They're all running to basically a half a dozen banks to do their exchange. So, you want to have it in the you just want a longer landing, strip, and if it happens in the first month, we're good. But if it happens the last day of the month, we're just going to have to, go into emergency mode and do what we have to do.
Okay. Well, I'm still going to pray that it doesn't. Yep. Thank you so much. Always appreciate you.
Okay. Thanks a lot. You take care, Gina. Bye-bye now. Okay. Our next caller is area code 757. That's 757. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim. How you doing today? Quick question. What do you think the dong will revalue at?
Well, this is just my speculation, but Vietnam has kind of been running around under the radar. But Vietnam has really been rebuilding, and they have a substantial amount of natural resources as well. They're under the Chinese umbrella, but they've been breaking out in the last few years and making trade deals with other nations. And I think when the dinar, in my opinion, I think the Iraqi dinar will go first. I think the Vietnamese dong will not be long thereafter. And I think that the Vietnamese dong could be over $2.
Oh, okay.
Now, remember, there's something else I have to mention. People need to be careful. I've said this in the past. The reinstitution of these currencies is a lot like a new issue of a bond where the thing takes off and then it drops back down. When the Kuwaiti dinar revalued, it settled at about $3.46, but it was over, I believe, closer to $8 before it dropped back down. So a lot of people were buying it at $5, $6, $7, and 2 weeks later it was at $3.46. So, you got to be kind of careful. It's like an IPO. It functions a little bit like that. So when I say over $2, it could. I wouldn't be surprised if it went up over $5 and then dropped back down. So my only point is, don't exchange your dinar and then go to the bank or go and purchase the dong at $3, $4, $5. Only see it down at $2.21 a week later. So, I say to people, you know what? Don't play games. The thing revalues. Go to the bank, exchange your currency. Invest wisely. Thank Jesus. Don't get crazy. And then there's other currencies as well that I think there's going to be a domino effect, and I think there's going to be a litany of currencies one after the other that are going to hit, and it's just going to be crazy. It's going to be Black Friday every day, and people just it's easy to kind of get greedy and say, well, gee, I was thrilled with 10 million, but now I can have 15 million. That's when people lose. When enough isn't enough.
The reason I ask, say if I had like $1,000, I can get 1 million dinar, or I can get 15 million dong. So, according to what you say, it'd be best to get the 15 million dong.
No. What I would do is I would buy 500,000. If you want both, I'd buy 500,000 dinar and 7.5 million dong. You definitely want to have dinar. I know people that have got a ton of dong and they have no dinar, and I always laugh with them. And I say, what are you going to do? I don't care if it's 1 day or 1 year. What are you going to do if I go to the bank, exchange my dinar, and you're still sitting on your dong? I say, I'm gonna buy me a new car. I'm gonna pull up in front of your house. I'm gonna honk the horn. I'm gonna wave at you every day and say, "Told you to buy some dinar." So, I just my opinion. But if you don't have dinar, you're not. If you're into pre-valued currencies and you don't have dinar, you're just not in the game. You got to start with dinar. You have to.
Okay, but I have both. I'm just saying if
then you
have
good.
both,
then you're good. You're good.
Okay.
I know what you mean. The dong is so much cheaper, you can buy more of it, and theoretically, if it comes out and that's not illegitimate. That's decent. It's just, I just tend to feel if I look at everything, it's just the Iraqi dinar screams big returns. Okay. It just does, and it's again, China is still a bad player, and Vietnam still to some degree is in their little orb. A country that's willing to devalue its own currency has no conscience about screwing with other countries. So, Iraq is a different situation. It's more of a standalone than Vietnam, in my opinion.
Okay, and one more question. Another question is, I'm on the internet. You see different people every day. Today's the day. Today's this day, or they sign this and that. When you go to the bank, will the bank limit how much you can exchange at that day, or is that possible?
Well, we have one client that has 500 million dinar and 500 million dong. If he walked into the bank, literally the amount of money that would be involved, they'd probably have to kick that upstairs to the big shots to do. But I can't imagine any situation. As a matter of fact, what the bank would probably do if they had a problem is they'd lay it off to other banks for a fee, some of the exchange. I just don't see that happening because they don't want you walking out of the bank. They want that money. Okay, they want that in their bank. They want that float. So, you'd really have to have one hell of a lot of a currency at one hell of an exchange rate. What the bank might do, and I probably wouldn't go along with it, is they might try to say, okay, we'll do it at this rate, but we got to put a 21-day hold on it. I might not be okay with that, but, we'll have to see. When you're sitting there with real dollars, you're going to have to, you might have to call a few banks and say, before you walk in, and you might determine, I got to go to 3 banks to get this done. We'll have to see.
Okay.
All right.
And you can use the same trust at all 3 banks.
Oh, certainly. Oh, absolutely, of course. But remember, everything we're talking about, these are good problems. These aren't bad problems. These are good problems. Okay.
All right. Have a good day.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye now. Oh, by the way, let me finish. Of course, doesn't matter where you do your exchange, you will set up a trust bank account for the same trust. It just means that the trust will have bank accounts at different banks, but it's the same trust, same protection. Our next caller is area code 301. That's 301. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. It's Larry from Maryland. Was just trying to understand when any of these currencies, the dinar in particular, hits the Forex, the value is then subject to all the different market forces, which could change its value up or down. Is that what happens? It's like Iraq sets the rate, say it's 380, but then it's just market fluctuation?
Of course. If you follow every day, you see rates change for all the countries. They go up and down. It's just that when you have a currency like the dinar, which happens to be a very wealthy country, the dinar is in a program rate for something having nothing whatsoever to do with the underlying wealth of the country. It had to do with their behavior and their invasion of Kuwait. So not only is it in a program rate and an artificial rate, but it happens to be a country in an artificial rate that's very, very wealthy. So the currency revalues, and the revaluation initially will reflect its natural wealth, its Basel compliant wealth. Then velocity kicks in. People see this and they start buying it, and that puts pressure on it to move up in value. Then people who made a profit start to sell it, and it goes down. So it's just the way the market works. So, like I say, be careful when you're in there. Don't try to get too cute. You could end up, like I said, people didn't exchange their Kuwaiti dinar at $4 and $5, and they ended up exchanging it for $3.50 when they could have gotten $4.50, $5 or $6. So it's
right. And so then, depending on its volatility, just depending on when we can physically get to the bank, we could see values. Because it's new, potentially it could be up or down any amount, right? We just go when we can go, and it is what it is on that given time when we're sitting there, right?
Well, if you have dinar and the dinar hits the Forex, it doesn't matter what day you go. You just made a fortune. The issue is, again, how much you made, but you're not going to have a bad day. But the other thing you can't do is you can't wring your hands over the fact, oh, my gosh, if I'd have gone yesterday, I'd have had $200,000 more dollars. That'll drive you crazy. You know, what you have to say is yesterday I had a net worth of $1.2 million, and now I have a net worth of $18.2 million. So I had a real good day.
Essentially, you're basically just saying I can get there on Friday or Thursday or Saturday, and you're going when you can go, and that's all you can really do, right?
Well, if you call the banks, they might schedule an appointment. They might tell you what specific branch to go to. So you're looking at say, well, I've got to go on Thursday. The value was such and such on Wednesday, and it's less on Thursday. That's life.
Either way, just get it done as soon as you can and, move on.
In my opinion, don't play games. I mean, speculators, they can play games, and they got money to play with. The average denarian is someone that doesn't necessarily need the money, but it's going to make a substantial difference in their quality of life. And, of course, there are people that have actually done without and really, really need the money, and that's the last guy that needs to play games. Go to the bank, exchange your currency. Like I said, thank Jesus, invest wisely, live well.
Okay. And then the dong is also, it's actually in a program rate? Is that where it is right now?
Yes, the dong, and it's it's very cheap to purchase it right now. But Vietnam has a lot of things going for it. Just as Iraq had a problem with the intrusion of Iran, Vietnam has a problem because they're constrained by they're part of the Chinese umbrella. Although they're breaking out, China's in a little bit of trouble. I really think that this is going to affect it. And, of course, they're the number one violator of the artificially devaluing their currency to cool the trade market and the trade deficits they're running with everyone. All of that's going to change. So,
does Vietnam have full control over what they want to do with their currency, or do they have to work?
I think that they do. I think that they do.
Okay.
Like I said, when you're operating in a fiat system, then countries have the ability to sort of subordinate other countries. But then when we go to a Basel compliance system where the value of the currency is based on its natural resources, not on the arbitrary control of other countries. That's why, for example, Iraq is going to explode and Iran is going to struggle and Vietnam is going to explode and China is going to struggle. And that, and in those two instances, that's a good thing.
Okay. And there's nothing formal, like you're saying. It is what you just said. It's not like China has done something that Vietnam has to work out of. Vietnam can do as they choose to do.
Well, Vietnam has had kind of a closed trade system with China has had a closed trade system with Vietnam, and they sort of, initially they go in and they help you out and they help you rebuild and restructure, and in return they have control. But at some point, a country like Vietnam might say, you know what, this deal ain't working for me anymore, and I'm going to go, do my own thing. So, that's what could happen, and that's probably what will happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Certainly. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye now. Well, that was our last call for this afternoon. Again, thanks so much for listening to this call. If things are of interest to you, I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed with the establishment of your asset protection trust, but you're under no obligation to do so. You can contact us, ask us any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. Again, everything you need is included in the package if you wish to proceed. Our next call will be next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature will happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Have a great week and hope to speak to you soon. Bye-bye now.